So Pew Research, one of my favorite stats places, they do polling. It's one of the most reliable polling places in the world.
Yeah.
What they do is they poll public opinion on most things. And my favorite stuff is public opinion of different countries. If you're into geopolitics, you'll like to know what country thinks of other countries.
Sure.
You know, it's important in the way that relations work and the way laws are written and, you know, what public perception will be towards another country's government, you know. And we've watched the public opinion in the West fall about China, you know, naturally. I mean, China's just treated the rest of the world
And
like
it's
garbage.
It is absolutely natural because, you know, here's the thing. People don't want to dislike China.
Yeah.
It's not like you wake up in the morning and say, I just don't want to like China today. It's like
It's a culmination of things.
China had built such a good name for itself in the recent, you know, like I'd say maybe 10, 15 years ago.
20, yeah.
Yeah, 20 years ago. People were like, China's the future.
Yeah.
China's really rising up. China's great. Everybody, including ourselves, that's why we lived there. And we kept showing how good China was. We had such a positive outlook for China. Xi Jinping takes over and they start to get belligerent and become this big cry bully and this like this spoilt brat of a country that just wants to constantly threaten and you know, like saber rattle and cause trouble and, you know, do all these nasty things. And of course people are going to feel less and less happy about China. So it's not like people just decided one day. It's just the actions of the Chinese government have really kind of made it this way.
No, and there's a new poll out, and I thought this was fantastic because there's a huge discrepancy in what China says in propaganda versus reality.
Yes.
And what they would say is if they saw Americans' opinion is low of China or France's opinion is low of China, whatever, right? They'll say, that's just the racist Americans or racist white people's opinion, you know?
Yes.
And what they fail to acknowledge is that Asian Americans, in this case, in this Pew Research, Asian Americans follow very similar trends because guess what? They're just Americans.
Yes.
And so the whole thing is that they say, us Chinese people, we basically own Asia. Yeah. And if you are of Asian descent, it doesn't matter if you're American or not. If you're of Asian descent, then you're related to us, not them, right?
Yes, yes.
They're trying this absolutely insane thing. They've been using this ethno-nationalism.
Yeah, that's terrible.
And they're trying to spread this ethno-nationalism outside of their own territory, which is wild and crazy.
Well, they do try to claim all of the diaspora abroad. So if you've got a Chinese person, even if he was born, even if his grandparents were born in the USA, they still claim that person as being a part of China. And they constantly use it in their culture war tactics to say like, oh, look at the anti-Asian hate and stuff. And Asians, you know, hate America. And, you know, they just want to be part of China and all that nonsense. They constantly use this.
So the results are in then. Let's see. So the Asian Americans, 78%.
This is the view of Asian Americans of these different countries.
Yes.
Right? So Asian Americans, they polled them.
Yes. Asian Americans, 78% of them have a somewhat favorable opinion of the US, okay?
Yeah.
And 11% somewhat unfavorable, which literally flies in the face of every bullshit Chinese propaganda that keeps coming out saying that Asian Americans
are scared of being shot in the streets. They're scared of America.
Blah, blah, they don't feel like they don't belong. Mm-hmm. Well, I'm sorry, China, but 78% of people disagree with you, and that's the majority.
And that's a proper poll. Okay,
right.
That's not some clandestine study by an outsourced thing from China or something. That's real.
No, this is real. Mm-hmm. So you go down all the way to the bottom, and lo and behold, only 20% of Asian Americans have a favorable opinion of China, and 52% of Asian Americans have an unfavorable opinion of China, right?
Yeah.
So this is where they start scrambling. This is where you get that meme where he's like trying to push the button and he's sweating.
Yeah,
right?
Exactly.
This is China freaking out. They're like, wait a minute, well, why did they do this poll? There must be something wrong here. Well, this is Asian Americans. What if you polled Chinese Americans, right?
Yes.
So let's pull up the next poll.
Yeah, okay. Because remember, the narrative that comes out of China all the time is that like 98% of Chinese people approve of the government. They keep saying that. They keep going on about this. And that's simply because you can't say you don't like it, right?
Yes.
So is this Chinese or Asian Americans?
So now this is even more interesting. This is breaking down each Asian American group,
right,
and then what their opinion of each country is,
right.
So if you look at,
I'll get us out of there.
Yeah. So if you look at Japanese, for example, 79% of Japanese people like the U.S. and 92% of Japanese view their homeland favorably. They support Japan.
Of course, and why wouldn't they?
You go down to the bottom, and only 14% of Japanese people view China favorably. Taiwan's a very interesting example. 76% of Taiwanese people like America. And 2% of Taiwanese Americans like China.
Well, of course.
Wait a minute, I thought they were part of China.
Well, imagine someone keeps telling you that, like, this is who you have to believe you are. Of course, you're not going to like that.
Right.
You don't like a bully.
Right. So this
Let's go to Chinese.
Here's the most shocking thing here.
Right, yeah.
72% of Chinese Americans view America favorably, which quite literally is the biggest slap in the face to mainland Chinese propaganda that claims that pretty much all Chinese Americans hate America and want to return to China or long to belong somewhere.
Yes.
And only
I'll get us
41% of Chinese Americans view their own homeland, China, favorably. That means the majority.
That's not less favorable.
No.
41% is less favorable. Look at the color chart. Chinese think that the U.S. is favorable. 41% hate it. Don't like it. Yeah. They don't like China.
You know how this scale works, right?
Right. It says there 40, it's less favorable.
Yeah, because it's less percentage.
Right.
The color on the chart.
Yeah.
So 41% of people have Chinese people have a favorable opinion of China, which means that it's less favorable.
Yeah, it's not good. It's negative.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's what I just said.
Yeah. But 72% of them like America.
Right. My point is the majority, so that's almost 60% of Chinese people have an unfavorable opinion of China.
Right.
The scale doesn't change.
Yeah, exactly.
So go back to the first slide. This is the most important thing. There's an asterisk here.
Okay.
This is my key takeaway here.
Okay.
Most Asian Americans view their ancestral homelands favorably, except Chinese Americans.
Except Chinese Americans.
So not only do Asian Americans, on the whole, not like China, the majority of Chinese Americans do not like China.
Yeah.
And they are the only country of Asian Americans that view their own home country as unfavorable.
Right.
This flies in the face of every single piece of propaganda coming out of China.
Correct.
It's massively important.
And we get to see this propaganda because our friends and people that we know in China are constantly calling us up or sending us messages because they're worried about, you guys must be facing so much, to our wives and stuff, must be facing so much racism and, you're being targeted for being shot and all this nonsense. Because that's what they're being told in all their WeChat groups and in the news and by the Chinese propaganda is that, it's unsafe and Chinese people are always being chifued, picked on.
Oh, no, just the Asians in
general, right? Well, I mean, if you actually ask Asian people that live here, not the Chinese government that's thousands of miles away, what they actually think.
Correct.
Well, now you know the results. The Chinese Americans and Asian Americans in general really like America and don't like China.
Right.
That's what you could take away from this.
Yes.
All right, so take your weird Harvard study that everyone keeps going on about and think about that for a minute. Because here's what happens when you actually get to poll and ask people, just candidly in a free country. Imagine this. Just imagine for a minute you live in China, okay? And you live underneath the Communist Party of China and an official government organization comes to ask you, do you favor the Chinese government, yes or no? What the hell do you think you're going to say?
What do you think you're going to say? It's not anonymous.
No, it's never anonymous. Everything's tied to you. Of course you're going to say yes. Are you satisfied with the way that the government is governing you? Yes.
Yeah.
Everything you're going to say yes. You're not going to say no. If you say no, that's going to be a speed bump in your life.
Yeah.
You're going to have trouble. It could potentially cause huge issues for you.
It's basically a honey trap.
It is. So, of course, everyone's going to say yes.
Yeah.
Okay, and that's just how it is. So that's why people like Hitler and Mussolini or whatever have like 100% approval ratings.
They make the approval rating.
Yeah, because guess what? If you said, I don't like Stalin, you'd get shot.
Yes.
I don't like Mao, that's the end of you and your entire family. So you're going to say yes. So this is reality over here compared to absolute falsehoods that you get.
Yeah, I thought that was really important.
Yeah, it's important to talk about this stuff. I mean,
no way! Look at that.
This power. Look at this power slide over here. It's just incredible. Like, let's tear him apart, okay? You're tearing me apart, Lisa. Alrighty, some kung fu.
No shot bullet.
Yes. Yeah, look at that great CGI. Isn't that amazing?
Can almost see it. When I take a breath, you fill up my life.